Today I want to talk about how experienced exercisers can sometimes fall away from exercise for one key reason. And these are people who have exercised for a long period of time. And often after that moment, they fall away from exercise for a long time and fall away from a habit that's so good for their life. So I was kind of just in the kitchen a minute ago talking to my wife, and I was saying, I need to do this week's Keep Active with Bevan, and I haven't actually got much to talk about this week. And she said, Bevan, you know what was really interesting was I was just at the supermarket and I bumped into a member from Les Mills from in the past, a guy called Pete. And she said, you know Pete? And she described him. I was like, oh yeah, I know Pete. And she said, and Pete, Pete back in the day was one of the core Les Mills members. He was one of those guys who was always at the gym, big part of our community. You had his other crew of people there. And if you had asked Pete at that time, are you a regular exerciser? And do you see yourself being a regular exerciser for the long term? He would have said, Bev, of course. Like, look at my history. I've spent years and years and years doing fitness. And then something happened because Pete fell away from exercise. And Jo was talking to Pete at the supermarket and she said, well, what happened? And he said, well, what was really interesting was I always had my crew at the gym. I had the people that when I go to the gym, I knew my people, and these are the people I hung out with for years and years. We trained together with each other. And then slowly over time, my crew just kind of disappeared. And then what happened was, because my crew disappeared, I fell away from my exercise habit. And what was really interesting, Jo was saying that at this moment in time, Pete's feeling a little bit despondent because he's put on a little bit of weight, he's fallen away from his exercise habit, and he's of an age, I think he was in his late 60s, he's of an age where health becomes really important. Like in your later part of life, the biggest asset you can have is good health. And he's of that age where if he's not going to look after his health, that's a big problem. And there was two things as Jo and I were talking about when we were talking about this. There's two things that really identified that we could look at as problem solving here. First of all is, what do you do when you're in Pete's situation? Because for a lot of people who have an exercise habit, it's a routine that they do continuously in their life. And often that routine has a formula around it. It might be a location that you're always going to go to. It might be your crew. It might be your exercise crew that's always there. It's those types of things that often keep people it's the stickiness of exercise. It's the connections, it's the convenience, it's the routine that keeps exercise sticky in people's life. And unfortunately for Pete, he fell away from that. So what can we learn from this? Well, first of all, I think the first thing is we've got to be really aware when our conditions are changing with exercise. And obviously I'm talking to people here who are regular exercisers right now. So obviously for Pete, he was kind of unaware of the cost of not seeing this in his life. So for example, his crew started to change and he was maybe getting a bit despondent about coming to our gym, but he didn't actually see that problem at that moment. And so what he ultimately ended up doing was he just fell away from exercise. So the first thing we want to do is catch when these things are starting to become a thing for us. So if Peter kind of started to notice, oh, you know what, some of my people aren't coming anymore. Now, once you've caught that, the second thing you've got to go is well, what's really important for me for exercise? So obviously for Pete, his community was really important. So what he should have done or could have done at that moment was to go, okay, well, how do I reconnect with people who are at the gym right now? Now, sometimes that may mean you don't find that. Like, let's say for example, at my gym, maybe at that time he just couldn't find that because maybe it was a younger crew now, or maybe just didn't have those connections. But sometimes it can be found. And it might just be that you go up and introduce yourself to somebody in the same environment. Now, another option is to find a new fitness community. And I think community is really important around fitness, not just finding a new gym, but finding a new community for people around exercise. Like when we're trying to find exercise in our life, we're not just trying to find the movement or the activity, we're trying to find the other conditions that help us be successful. So let's say Pete did kind of try it at our gym and he thought, I'm just not finding that connection. Instead of just giving up on exercise, he should have gone, well, I know for me to feel successful with exercise, I need a community. So I'm going to spend some time trying different exercises, trying to find community. Now, some good little tips here. Look for leaders that are great at building fitness communities. So basically try 5 or 6 different locations or 5 or 6 different movements and just kind of try these different communities. And when you're doing the workouts, really see if people are connecting, see if people have friendships, see if the leaders are really good at connecting people together. Because if they're doing that, that's probably going to show that they're going to welcome you into their world and make you feel a part of their community. Then the other thing is, then when you go into a new community, or if you do embrace new people within your current community, get involved. Like, be a participant. Like, if they go for coffee after the class, go to the coffee. If they have social functions, go to the social functions. Even in the workout, be the person who participates, because connections come from shared experience. And if you can have these shared experiences, suddenly what's going to happen is you're going to be giving someone a high five in the workout, and then the next week before the class, you'll be talking to that person and you'll start to enrich in those experiences in the world. So that's the first thing for my advice for Pete in that situation. But now Pete's later on down the piece and he's fallen away. And one of Pete's problems right now is he's not what he used to be. And Joe said to him, why don't you come back to the gym and just kind of get back into it? And he said, oh, I'm not what I used to be. I'm not as fit as I used to be. And this is a really important moment. Lower your expectations. When you've been an exerciser in the past and you've fallen away from exercise, one of the biggest problems we see is, I'm not what I used to be, so I don't even want to try. And there's two things is that I'm not going to enjoy it, and I'm almost embarrassed by the version I am right now. The problem with that is, you'll never try. So change will never happen. And so what you've got to do is two things you've got to do. First of all, you've got to go, I've got to let go of my past self. I've just got to go, here's where I am right now, and I'm starting my journey. And going in with a real beginner's mindset that, you know what, I'm just a beginner and I'm just allowing myself to do it easy. And secondly, your main focus should be on easy habit building. So all I'm trying to do is, you know, for the next 3 months, my goal is to turn up to my fitness location 3 times each week, and I'm allowed to do it as easy as possible, because all we need to do is get you back on the horse. And if we think of Pete, sure, at the moment he's not what he used to be, but if he can have that 3 months of just easy getting back into the habit, there'll be a higher version of himself in the past, and he'll be able to get back to that kind of level of intensity that he likes. But he just needs a safe pathway back. And by removing the pressure to be what you used to be, and by focusing on habit building in that period, there's a higher chance he can feel successful and he'll be able to achieve the ultimate long-term health that he wants. So if you are someone who's a bit like Pete, who maybe in the past you're a legendary exercise and the conditions of your world changed, maybe it's time for you to actually get back into the habit by finding a world that's going to work for you based on what you know about yourself, and allowing yourself to safely and easily do it where you're doing your habit building. If you enjoy my videos and you're not exercising, or you know somebody in your life who really struggles with exercise, I've got to recommend my new book, I Will Make You Passionate About Exercise. The purpose of this book is to take those who struggle with exercise from where they are to cementing the foundation that creates a lifetime love of exercise. It has all the steps, it has a plan, it has a journey that you go through that safely and wisely guides you to bringing exercise in your life in the most successful way possible. To get the book, go to www.passionaboutexercise.com. It will be the best thing you can do for your health and fitness. Get the book right now and you'll be seeing massive change in your health and fitness in a very short period of time.